Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So as you've probably noticed, I'm in a different environment today than my usual filming setting, and that's because I'll be in Toronto for a few days. So I still want to film videos while I'm here, and I just thought it'd be a nice change of scenery. So today I'll be talking about freelancing. So I've recently started to dabble into the world of freelancing, and I've actually found it to be a little bit of a learning curve when comparing it to the work environment of a typical kind of 9-to-5 office job. So I thought I'd share some tips and tricks for your freelancing career from what I've learned already and how you can take it to the next level and become even more successful in freelancing. So stay tuned. So my first piece of advice is to put yourself out there. These days there's so many platforms that you can set up a freelancing profile on. Some examples are Upwork or Fiverr. Those are kind of the most popular ones. So I'm on Upwork as of now, but I actually haven't had any work through there yet because I've been just receiving a lot of referrals, so that's been keeping me busy. That's kind of, I think, the biggest source of freelancing jobs for people, word of mouth and just friends of friends, connections. So I feel like when you have one client and they're happy with your work, then they'll refer you to their friends or family or anyone else who needs whatever work that you or service that you provide for them. I know a couple of friends, and this is also how they get their main streams of business for their freelancing careers. But if you don't know anyone, like I said, Upwork or Fiverr is a great place to start. There's a wide variety of jobs on there. And I think Upwork is a little bit of a better platform in regards to kind of higher pay. I know Fiverr is for more low budget projects usually, so it kind of depends what you're looking for there and how much time you're willing to put into these projects. But yeah, I think those are some great ways to find work and to start building a freelance portfolio. So once you've got the client, you obviously have to have a few initial project meetings to determine, what the criteria is, the timeline, and what your responsibilities are for that project. So this can be a little bit overwhelming for a beginner freelancer because you might not know how much to charge, what the timeline will look like. So I have a few tips in regards to this component of freelancing. So my first piece of advice, make sure you kind of have a rough idea of all the details and how long it would take you. So even if you've never done a project like that before, just kind of have a rough estimate of how much time you think it would take based on maybe previous projects. I think this is a really important point because it's really easy to overpromise in the heat of the moment. I know in a phone call I've had in the past where we were kind of discussing the scope of the project, I told them that I only needed a couple days to finish the next step of the project, and when I hung up I realized that it would have taken me more than a couple of days, and I was like, why did I only say a couple of days? I think I was just really trying to please them and make them happy with what I'm doing and the speed on the return of the project. So I still finished it in a couple of days, but I was working on it constantly and I wasn't really working on much else. So that can potentially put other projects behind or just put yourself in a space that you don't want to be in. So I think people understand if you give them, let's say, a slightly longer timeline than you think it might take you because they want the best work out of you. So as long as it's within their time frame of having the project completed, if you take a few extra days, I think that's fine. And I mean, you can always say it might take you a week, but then finish it in 5 days, and that way they'll be even happier with you because you're able to exceed their expectations. So I feel like this is where the quote "under promise and over deliver" comes in hand, and it's, I feel like, very true to everything really in the workplace, but especially freelancing because you're kind of your own boss and you have to manage your own time, so make sure you're not disappointing your clients in that sense. Now when it comes to that initial meeting, you're probably also going to be talking about the cost of the project. So this can also be an intimidating component because if you're not used to freelancing, you might not have set rates yet, or you might not be able to decide between charging hourly versus charging for the project. And I'm here to say that I feel like there are situations where you can do both. So I've done ones in the past where I've charged hourly, and those are usually for longer projects where I'm not sure exactly how much might go into it and the deliverables might change. And then I feel like with the hourly rates, I usually do a bit of a higher hourly rate because you are uncertain of how long it'll take, so you want to make sure you're actually getting paid for what you're doing and that you're happy with the amount you're getting paid. Otherwise it might be a little bit discouraging to do the work at all. And in regards to kind of a flat project-based pricing, I've done that for smaller projects. So for example, I had to create a logo for a company. I knew that wouldn't take me too long, and I thought it would make more sense to just charge a flat rate because if I only charged, by the hour, it might be like a few hours of my time, but that few hours translates to a lot of previous experience. So there's actually another quote that I saw recently from a freelancer that I thought was quite relevant to this industry as a whole. And I can't remember what it was exactly, but it was something along the lines of, when you are charging for a flat rate fee for a project, the company or the client is paying for all of the years of experience that you've had building that skill, and they're not necessarily paying for the hours that you're putting into it now. So I think that's really important to remember, because you've taken probably years or at least months to build these specific set of skills that you have for whatever freelancing service you offer. And of course, with time, you'll become more efficient and faster at completing these projects, but that doesn't mean to discount all the previous work you've done and all the previous, time you spent learning these skills. I think that's where you really have to decide how much value you think you bring to the table. Obviously, if you're a beginner, you shouldn't charge as much as, an experienced person, because you're still learning the ropes. But I think it's fair to kind of take all of your previous experience into account when deciding on pricing. So my next piece of advice goes into the actual freelancing process. So after you've decided on a price, you've decided on what type of project it will be and what it looks like, you actually have to do the work. So initially, I think this part for me was the biggest learning curve, because when you're in an office, like I previously was for my old jobs, I feel like your brain is in that work mindset. So, you have to go there and do work. But when you're freelancing, you're at home, there's distractions, it's easy to procrastinate and kind of put off the project until potentially the last minute. So I think that's something to keep in mind. And I mean, everyone's different. Some people are great with working at home, but for me, it was definitely a little bit difficult because I didn't have like a great setup either. So I find what worked best for me was to actually get out of the house. So whether that was going to a coffee shop or a co-working space or a library, any kind of change of scenery from my home really helped me get into that working mindset again. And once I was there, it was easy to work on things, and it was actually, and I feel like once I leave my house to go to all these different places to do work, I'm actually way more motivated than I would be at home, and actually enjoy the work a lot more, because I feel like you're in a more productive environment. You have the nice coffee shop lighting or the music and the snacks, and for me, it works better than just staying at home, on a couch doing work. So I feel like that was kind of one of the biggest differences for me with freelancing, because I wasn't in an office setting. Make sure you figure out kind of what works out for you best at the start and stick to that routine. So once you've kind of worked on the project and you're ready to show your client what you've done, make sure you're prepared for rejection. And I don't mean straight up rejection where they're like, okay, I hate the project and I want to hire someone else, because I don't think that would happen unless you did something really bad or didn't do the work at all. But they are going to critique your work and give you feedback. So if you're not prepared for that, I'm gonna give you a reality check, because it often happens. I feel like clients don't necessarily always know what they want on the first go, and they give you something to work with, and then once they see that product kind of come to life, they realize that, oh, I actually wanted something else, or oh, I actually wanted to go this way with the project. The first kind of initial round is just to kind of get a feel for them and give them some ideas of things they could do. And I think it's also useful to kind of try to input some of your own professional experience and ideas in there as well. Like I said, they might not know what they want, but it's your job to kind of figure out what they want and make it work with whatever they're looking to get. Don't get frustrated at this point. They will eventually like what you give them, but don't get discouraged, because you will most likely have to make a couple of tweaks and changes to whatever you created for them. And it's really kind of an ongoing cycle of going back and forth with the client until they're happy with what you present them. Oh yeah, and during this process, make sure to stay calm. I know it can really get under your skin when people are uncertain with what they want, or if they're not, getting back to you quickly, or whatever the situation is. But just remember, paying you for this job, in the end, it's gonna work out, and you don't wanna create a bad relationship with people. So now it's time for my final piece of advice. After you've completed the project, you're probably more than happy that it's done with, because it's been an ongoing cycle and you probably never want to see that piece of work again. Just kidding. I mean, sometimes that happens. But you're also pretty proud of the work. So after you've handed off the final project, if you haven't signed an NDA or anything like that, it's really important that you put pieces that you're proud of in your portfolio to build up your portfolio, so other people can see, things you've done in the past and what you're capable of doing. And if you're taking freelance seriously, like that's what you want to do for your career, I think it's really important to create some sort of Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn page for your freelancing career. So this could be just your personal page and you start adding freelancing aspects to it, or it could be a completely separate, more business related page. But I think it's important to post your projects online, and you can even post, little tidbits of what you're doing throughout the projects to kind of tease the crowd and get people excited to see the final result, because I feel like this is another way to get clients. And it's just a great way to get a following of people who enjoy your work and at some point down the line might need your help. I've seen lots of freelancers that I know do this, and they get a lot of good feedback for this. And even for me, I feel like it's pretty inspiring when I see other freelancers post their work, and it inspires me to do more freelancing. So make sure you're active on some sort of social media outlet and that you're posting your freelance work there, because the most common way to get freelance work is through people that you already know or through friends of friends. So this is another way to reach that crowd. So those are my pieces of advice for freelancers that are either just starting out or even well into their career. I feel like freelancing can be a great option for people that want a little bit more freedom and flexibility with their work schedule, as well as just working on projects that, really ignite their passion within, even though sometimes you might have to take a project or two that you're not exactly as passionate about, but it pays the bills. So let me know if you have any other tips or tricks that you do when you're freelancing, or if you're just starting to get into freelancing. Let me know what you think of it, if you had any struggles, if you love it. It's always great to hear kind of other people's perspectives. But thanks for watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more business and lifestyle related topics. I'm thinking to make a few videos on how I make money online other than freelancing. I have a few different ways that I do make money online, so I think that's something that maybe other people want to hear about, because it's pretty great when the internet can make money for you. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.